The house fell into silence as Kingsley's parents slid a contract across the table toward Genevieve and declared, "Sign this. All your assets now belong to the family." Kingsley smirked. "It's just a formality, babe." Genevieve leaned back in her chair, a slow smile spreading across her lips. "Then you're going to love what's in my safe deposit box." Kingsley's smile wavered. His parents, Gregory and Victoria, exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence flickering. And right on cue, the door opened, and Genevieve's lawyer stepped into the room. Underscore 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 underscore. 6 years ago, Genevieve had met Kingsley in Chicago. She was in her late 20s, focused on her career, and had worked hard to build a stable, comfortable life. Real estate was her thing, flipping houses, making smart investments. Nothing flashy, but solid and secure. Kingsley, on the other hand, had the aura of old money. Or so she thought. He had the charm, the confidence, the expensive taste. He never talked much about finances, but he always had the best suits, the latest gadgets, the high-end everything. His parents were the same, people who carried themselves like aristocrats, convinced they were better than everyone else. Their house was massive, filled with antique furniture and oil paintings of ancestors, every inch of it designed to radiate wealth. But Genevieve wasn't some naive, wide-eyed girl. She knew rich people. She worked with them all the time. And something about Kingsley's family felt off. There were little comments. "You're so lucky to be joining our family. A woman like you must be thrilled to have this kind of stability." Stability? Why did they assume she needed it? Kingsley had his own red flags, too. Borrowing money and forgetting to pay it back. Suggesting she put her name on a house he wanted to buy for tax reasons. She had shut that down. But she let the other things slide, telling herself they didn't matter, until tonight. Underscore 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 underscore. After 2 years of marriage, Kingsley's parents invited them over for dinner at their estate. Nothing unusual, they loved their extravagant family dinners, expensive wine, and long-winded conversations about legacy and tradition. But tonight, something was different. There was tension in the air. Kingsley seemed excited. Victoria was practically glowing. Gregory, always composed, wore a look of quiet satisfaction. Halfway through dinner, Gregory cleared his throat and placed a thick stack of papers in front of Genevieve like it was a gift. "We've been thinking a lot about the future," Victoria said, her voice warm, almost maternal. "About what's best for the family." Kingsley watched Genevieve closely, waiting. "We need to ensure stability," Gregory added, sliding a pen toward her. "This contract will allow us to combine our resources, a strong financial unit, working together." Genevieve picked up the first page and started reading. They wanted her to sign over everything, her savings, her investments, her real estate portfolio, even her personal bank accounts. All of it would be placed into a family trust. Controlled, of course, by them. Her stomach twisted. "It's just a formality, babe," Kingsley said smoothly. Genevieve looked at him. He was smiling, like this was all normal, like she should have expected it. "You trust me, don't you?" Something inside her snapped. She leaned back, took a breath, and smiled. "Then you're going to love what's in my safe deposit box." The room went silent. Kingsley's smile faltered. Victoria's fingers clenched around her wine glass. Gregory's jaw tightened. They had expected her to be surprised. Maybe even flattered. But she wasn't playing their game. What's in the box? Kingsley asked, his voice tight. Oh, just some paperwork, she said casually. A few documents. Something I put together before we got married, for protection. The silence stretched. And then, as if on cue, the butler stepped into the room. Ma'am, he said, your lawyer is here. Genevieve wished she had a camera to capture their faces. Kingsley went pale. Victoria looked like she had swallowed a lemon. Gregory simply stared at her, his grip on the contract tightening. A moment later, Teresa, her lawyer, walked in and set her briefcase down on the table. Good evening, Teresa said. I understand there's a contract my client is expected to sign. Victoria was the first to recover. This is a private family matter, she said sharply. There's no need for lawyers. Teresa ignored her, flipping through the pages. Then she let out a short laugh. Wow. She shook her head. This is blatant financial manipulation. Kingsley shifted uncomfortably. It's not like that. Actually, it is, Teresa cut him off. If Genevieve signed this, they'd have complete control over her assets. They could drain her accounts, sell her properties, and legally, she wouldn't be able to do a thing about it. Victoria's face turned red. It's just about trust, she snapped. Right, Teresa said dryly. That's why the contract explicitly states that they have control over all withdrawals, property sales, and financial decisions, but she wouldn't have any access without approval. She turned to Genevieve. Good thing you have a lawyer who actually reads the fine print. Kingsley stood abruptly. Why are you acting like this? He demanded. Genevieve's voice was calm. Why am I acting like this? You just tried to steal everything. Victoria's voice turned sickly sweet. Sweetheart, this is just a misunderstanding. No, Genevieve said. It's not. She stood up, looking each of them in the eye. And I think I'm done here. As she turned to leave, Kingsley grabbed her wrist. Not hard, but firm enough to make a statement. His smirk was gone, replaced by something colder. Don't do this, he muttered. You don't want to make enemies here. Enemies. She yanked her hand free, meeting his gaze. You already made one. Genevieve could see what Victoria was doing, dangling the illusion of control in front of her like a carrot, expecting her to bite, expecting greed to cloud her judgment. But what Victoria didn't realize was that Genevieve wasn't seeing an opportunity. She was seeing a pattern. This family had a history of taking things that didn't belong to them. Scheming. Manipulating. Ensuring that everything they touched became theirs. And Kingsley, he had known. He had known and kept it from her. She turned to him, voice steady but sharp as a knife. Were you ever going to tell me? Kingsley ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. I was going to bring it up later, okay? When the timing was better. Better for who? Silence. But they both knew the answer. He had never planned to tell her. She didn't say another word as they left. In the car, Teresa sighed, rubbing her temples. You realize what this means, right? Genevieve stared out the window. Yeah. They were after more than just my money. Teresa tapped her fingers against her briefcase. Exactly. And if this estate is as big as they're making it sound, they'll do anything to keep control of it. Genevieve's stomach twisted. The puzzle pieces were sliding into place, forming an ugly, undeniable truth. What are the odds Kingsley has debt? Teresa gave her a sharp look. You think he's hiding something? Genevieve clenched her jaw. I know he is. And she was done ignoring the signs. Underscore 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 underscore. The next morning, she did something she should have done a long time ago. She hired a private investigator. She wanted everything. His finances, his credit history, his business dealings. And what the investigator found was worse than she had imagined. Kingsley wasn't just in debt. He was drowning in it. Maxed out credit cards, personal loans, a business loan under her name. He had stolen from her, lied to her. That night, she confronted him. "How long have you been stealing from me?" Kingsley blinked. "What are you talking about?" She threw the papers onto the table. "You took out a loan in my name. You've been hiding debt, lying. And you wanted me to sign over everything so you could fix your mess." For the first time, he didn't try to deny it. Instead, he laughed. A cold, bitter sound. "You were always so damn careful," he muttered, shaking his head. "I thought I could make you see the bigger picture. That you'd understand we needed to be smart about our future." Genevieve's chest tightened. So this was always the plan. Kingsley met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "You have no idea what you've just started." She took a step back. "Are you threatening me?" He didn't answer. He just grabbed his coat and walked out the door. She wasn't scared. She was furious. And if he thought this was over, he was dead wrong. Underscore 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 underscore. Genevieve barely slept that night, her mind racing. Every red flag. Every lie. Every manipulation. Kingsley hadn't just betrayed her. He had been planning this. The next morning, her phone buzzed. "Teresa. You need to come to my office. Now." Genevieve could hear the urgency in her voice. She didn't ask questions, she just got in her car and drove. When she arrived, Teresa was waiting with a file on her desk. "You're not going to like this," she warned, sliding it forward. Genevieve opened it. And her blood ran cold. There was another woman. Actually, there were two. 2 photographs. 2 names. 2 lives wrecked by Kingsley. Teresa's voice was tight. "Meet Nora and Precious." Nora had been with him 2 years ago. He had promised to marry her. Taken out a loan in her name. Drained her savings. Then vanished. Genevieve's stomach turned. Precious was last year, Teresa continued. Same story. Except, she hesitated. He never actually broke things off with her. Genevieve stared at the pictures, trying to process. So he was cheating. Teresa nodded. "While married to you?" "Yes. But here's the kicker." She flipped to another document. He was also engaged to Precious. Genevieve blinked. "Wait. What?" Teresa's expression was grim. He proposed. Gave her a ring. Planned a wedding. She thinks she's marrying him in 6 weeks. Genevieve's mouth went dry. So he was married to me. Engaged to someone else. And scamming us both. Pretty much. And that's when it hit her. The Rhode Island estate. The inheritance his family was obsessed with. Kingsley needed a wife on paper to claim it. That's why he had kept her around. That's why he had pushed for the trust. He wasn't just trying to steal from her. He was trying to replace her before she figured it out. Underscore 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 underscore. She needed to talk to Precious. Teresa set up a private meeting at a coffee shop the next day. When Precious walked in, she was glowing, floating with excitement. She had no idea she was Kingsley's next target. Genevieve introduced herself, and the moment she said Kingsley's name, she saw it, the shift. The sudden guard going up. "How do you know him?" Precious asked warily. Genevieve placed her wedding ring on the table. Silence. Then, "That's not possible." Precious reached into her bag with shaking hands. She pulled out her own ring and placed it beside Genevieve's. Identical. Then she started crying. She told Genevieve everything. Kingsley had spun her the perfect fairy tale, a coming inheritance, a need to be married to secure it. Once everything was finalized, they'd move to Europe. Live a life of luxury. He had already convinced her to sign over her savings. Genevieve clenched her fists. "Do you still have contact with him?" Precious nodded, wiping her tears. "He's supposed to take me to meet his family this weekend." Genevieve exhaled slowly. "We're going to crash that little reunion. Underscore 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 underscore. The night of the family dinner came fast. Kingsley thought he was bringing his sweet, naive fiancée to meet his loving parents. Instead, he was about to get the shock of his life. Precious and Genevieve arrived together. Genevieve walked in first. Kingsley's parents were already seated at the grand dining table, sipping wine like royalty. Victoria's face twisted in confusion when she saw Genevieve. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. Genevieve smiled. "I wouldn't miss family night for anything." Kingsley walked in behind her, arm in arm with Precious, then froze. His face drained of color. Genevieve watched as panic settled in, as his brain scrambled for a way out. "Babe," he said, forcing a smile at Precious. "Why is she here?" Precious crossed her arms. "You tell me." Silence. Victoria stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. I won't have this drama at my table." Genevieve laughed. "Oh, trust me. You'll want to hear this." She turned to Teresa, who was standing by the doorway. "Would you like to begin?" Teresa stepped forward, flipping open her files. "Let's start with fraud," she said. "And then we'll get to bigamy." The room exploded. And Kingsley? He just sat there, staring at Genevieve with a look she'd never forget. Pure, unfiltered hatred. He knew. She had destroyed him. And the best part? She wasn't finished yet. "You're trying to ruin us," Victoria hissed, her voice dripping with fury. Genevieve laughed, a cold, sharp laugh, full of disdain. "Ruin you?" she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You did that to yourselves. I just put the truth on display." Kingsley had been silent. Too silent. And that's when Genevieve knew he was about to snap. "You think you've won?" He finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. Everyone turned to look at him. He wasn't panicked anymore. He was furious. "You act like you're the victim here," he growled, eyes locked onto Genevieve. "But let's be honest, this was never about justice. This was about power. You liked feeling superior. You liked keeping everything locked away, forcing me to come to you, to beg." Genevieve crossed her arms, unfazed. "That's an interesting way to describe me protecting my assets from a pathological liar." Kingsley's face twitched, rage simmering just beneath the surface. "You never trusted me. You never gave me a reason to. I was your husband." He exploded, slamming his fist onto the table. Glasses rattled violently, one toppling over, red liquid spilling like blood. "You were supposed to stand by me, not turn on me like this." The air in the room tightened. Precious took a step back. Victoria looked shaken. Gregory, who had been silent all night, finally spoke. "Sit down." His voice was quiet, but the authority in it was unmistakable. Kingsley stood there, chest heaving, fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. But slowly, he sank back into his chair. Teresa adjusted the stack of documents in her hands. "Since emotions are running high, let's cut to the chase," she said, flipping a page. "First, Precious has already reported the fraud regarding the stolen funds. That's one charge against you." Kingsley's jaw tightened. "Second," Teresa continued, "we've already spoken to law enforcement about the fraudulent business loan. And considering the forged signature." Victoria gasped. You went to the police?" Genevieve tilted her head, smiling slowly. "Did you really think I was going to let you walk away unscathed?" Kingsley's hands curled into fists. "Third," Teresa went on, unfazed, "the Rhode Island estate, the inheritance you were counting on? Turns out, probate court has some interesting information. Your assets are frozen." Gregory's head snapped up. "What did you say?" Teresa smiled. "Oh, you didn't know? This family is drowning in debt. And now, there's no money left to save you." The air shifted. Victoria's face drained of all color. "No, that's not possible." "It is," Teresa said, setting down a folder. "The real reason you wanted my client to sign everything into a family trust? You needed her money to pay off your debts. But now, it's over." Victoria shot up from her chair. "Lies." But the crack in her voice betrayed her. She knew it. Gregory knew it. Kingsley knew it. They were finished. Victoria was the first to break. She turned on Kingsley, her voice sharp, her eyes burning. "You idiot," she hissed. "You had one job. You were supposed to make this work. And now, we're ruined." Kingsley flinched. "Don't put this all on me," he snapped. "This was your plan just as much as mine. And you were supposed to execute it." She screeched. Gregory rubbed his temples, looking 10 years older. Precious, shaking with anger, turned to Genevieve. "I want him arrested." "Don't worry," Genevieve said smoothly. "It's already in motion." Kingsley's head snapped toward her. "You wouldn't." She met his gaze. "Watch me." And that's when the sirens wailed outside. That night, Kingsley was arrested. Fraud. Identity theft. Bigamy. The list went on. His parents? Their estate fell into foreclosure within months. The next day, Genevieve and Precious met for drinks, raising their glasses in a silent toast. "Some people say revenge isn't worth it," Precious mused, swirling her cocktail. Genevieve smirked, her eyes glinting. "They've never met Kingsley."